What if I told you that the greatest threat to your power isn't your enemy? It's the person who sleeps beside you. In this world, loyalty is a shifting wind, and those who lead with their heart are the first to be betrayed. In this video, we'll uncover why Machiavelli believed that to survive, you must learn to be cold-blooded, even with those you love. Look into the eyes of the one who says they love you. A spouse, a friend, a son. Now ask yourself, not if they love you, but under what conditions that love survives. You see, the common man believes loyalty to be some sacred virtue, a kind of divine glue that binds one's soul to another through blood, oath, or affection. But this is a fiction. Beautiful, yes, but fatal if believed. Loyalty in its truest form is not given. It is rented, it is bought, and it is paid for, again and again, with power, protection, status, or fear. The moment you stop paying the price, the moment you grow soft, indecisive, or weak, even those closest to you will begin to drift. Slowly at first. They won't betray you with a sword in the night. No, they'll do something far worse. They will calculate. And when the arithmetic no longer favors you, when their advantage lies elsewhere, they will shift their allegiance. With polite words, with silent contempt, with smiling treason. This is not cruelty. This is the nature of human interest. Even the most virtuous man will choose his well-being over yours when pushed. Even the most loving woman will weigh your value against the cost of her own survival. And if you are foolish enough to believe otherwise, then you have already surrendered your throne before the first blow was struck. I watched this unfold in the palaces of Florence. I saw sons turn on fathers for inheritance. Bishops defy kings for influence. Generals abandon princes when the tides of war changed. These were not acts of madness. They were acts of calculation. Self-preservation is the highest commandment in the unspoken laws of power. Do you understand? You may think your inner circle is bound to you by loyalty. You may believe your allies will remain loyal in hardship because they love you, because they owe you, because they said they would. But what they are truly loyal to is their own interest. And when that interest no longer aligns with yours, your power becomes a burden to them, a threat, an inconvenience. And that is when the knives come out. A wise ruler does not expect loyalty. He engineers it. He ensures that every man who stands beside him has something to gain by doing so, and something to lose if he does not. Loyalty must be tethered to risk and reward, never to sentiment. You see, emotion is a negotiable currency. Today they love you. Tomorrow they resent you for the very things they once admired. Your strength will be called arrogance. Your mercy will be called weakness. Your patience will be twisted into indifference. If their needs are not met, their perception of you will rot, and so too will their loyalty. But when a man fears the consequences of disloyalty, when he sees that your wrath is precise, swift, and without apology, then he thinks twice before shifting allegiance. Then he becomes predictable. Predictability, not love, is what you must cultivate in your court, your home, your alliances. The predictable man is easier to control, and the man who knows the cost of betrayal will hesitate long enough for you to act first. Do not mistake this for paranoia. This is clarity. The lion who forgets the instincts of the jungle because he was raised among sheep does not live long. And those who lead with their heart, believing that love is unbreakable, are always the first to fall when winter comes. If you are still clinging to the belief that love makes loyalty pure, consider this: how many betrayals in history were committed not by enemies, but by those who once kissed the hand of the ruler. Julius Caesar fell not to foreign swords, but to Brutus, his most trusted. The Medici family, who bathed Florence in wealth and culture, found themselves hunted not by enemies, but by their own bankers, bodyguards, and distant cousins. These were not acts of hatred. These were simply transactions. When the cost of staying loyal exceeded the reward, The decision was easy, silent, final. You must ask yourself, are the people around you loyal because they love you, or because they still benefit from your favor? Because the moment that benefit fades and love is all that remains, you will be at their mercy. And mercy is in short supply when ambition is involved. So never bind yourself to the illusion that loyalty is eternal. Never rest in the comfort of personal affection. The only loyalty worth trusting is the kind you control, not the kind you hope for. And never forget, those who claim to love you most are often the ones who know exactly where to drive the blade if it ever becomes convenient. Mercy is a beautiful thing when you are weak. When you have no power, you beg for mercy. You pray for it. You offer it in the hopes that one day it will be returned. But when you sit in the seat of power, when others bow before you, when your word becomes law, then mercy is no longer a virtue. It becomes a gamble. You see, power does not respect kindness. It does not admire softness. Power speaks in the language of strength and consequence. And when you answer betrayal with mercy, when you greet rebellion with forgiveness, you are not being noble. You are inviting the next betrayal to come sooner and with sharper fangs. The masses may cheer when a ruler shows mercy, but do not confuse applause with loyalty. They cheer because they believe they can get away with more. They cheer because your leniency makes them feel safe, comfortable, unchecked. And soon, that comfort breeds boldness. That boldness breeds defiance. And defiance is the crack in the foundation that brings down empires. I have seen it in the courts, again and again. A prince spares a traitor to appear magnanimous. He pardons his enemies in public to show his so-called humanity. And what does this yield? Gratitude? No. It yields opportunity for others to test his limits, to see just how far they can push before the prince blinks again. Because if one traitor walks free, then perhaps the next rebellion will be forgiven too. Perhaps punishment is not inevitable. Perhaps law is flexible, and when law becomes flexible, power becomes hollow. Contempt is not born out of cruelty. It is born out of inconsistency. When a ruler punishes some but spares others, when mercy is offered not as strategy, but as sentiment, then the governed no longer fear the throne. They weigh their actions not against justice, but against the ruler's mood. And no throne built on moods can last. You must understand something. When you hold power, every act of mercy you offer is interpreted as weakness by someone. Not because they are evil, not because they are cruel, but because they are watching you closely and they are thinking like predators. Predators test. They probe. They learn from what you tolerate. Show too much restraint, and they will assume you are unable to bite. Now consider this, which is more dangerous? Being hated or being disrespected? The answer is always the latter. Hatred can be managed, it can be feared. But once they stop respecting your authority, once they see that your threats carry no teeth, your mercy no consequence, then you are no longer a sovereign. You are a suggestion. You are a temporary obstacle between them and what they want, and obstacles are meant to be removed. Mercy can never be your default. It must be calculated, rare, and most importantly, profitable. If your mercy does not secure greater obedience, if it does not inspire deeper fear in others, then it is a mistake. And mistakes at the top are never forgotten. They are studied. They are measured. And then they are used against you. History does not remember the lenient rulers. It remembers the effective ones. It remembers those who understood the burden of command. And the burden is this sometimes, to be just, you must be merciless. Sometimes, to protect the many, you must make an example of the few. And sometimes, to keep order, you must be feared more than you are loved. This is not cruelty. This is not sadism. This is order. I remember a governor in the Republic who once spared a rebellious city out of pity. He granted them autonomy, pardoned their leaders, and reopened trade. He said, Let them see that we are better than they are. Let them learn from our generosity. Within 5 years, that city had armed itself, allied with our enemies, and set fire to the governor's estate. They took his mercy and turned it into leverage. His body was never found, but his head was sent to Florence in a basket, stuffed with the very decree of pardon he once signed. So I tell you, mercy is not evil, but it is dangerous, especially when given to those who do not fear you, especially when repeated, especially when remembered. The illusion of mercy can only survive when it is supported by the memory of punishment. If your subjects remember that you have the power to destroy them and that you choose not to, then your mercy is respected. But if they suspect that you will never destroy them, no matter what they do, then your mercy becomes worthless. Worse, it becomes ammunition. They will use your kindness as proof of your weakness. They will spread it like wildfire until your enemies believe you no longer have the will to act. That is how mercy turns to contempt. They will smile as they disobey you. They will laugh as they undermine you. And they will say, "He is too noble to punish us. He is too kind to make us pay." And once they believe that, once that idea takes root in their minds, your fall has already begun. It is a feeling, a trembling thing, born in the chest, shaped by memory, stirred by words, warmed by comfort. It can arrive suddenly, like a flame in the dark, and vanish just as quickly, extinguished by time, by pain, by necessity. Love is fickle. Love forgets. But fear is carved into the bone. Fear leaves a mark. It does not ask to be remembered. It demands it. You may not recall why you once loved a man, but you will never forget why you fear him. This is the truth that every ruler, every leader, every soul who dares to hold power must confront. Love may win you hearts, but only fear will keep them in your grasp. Do not misunderstand me. Love has its place. It is useful. It can inspire. It can charm. It can unify. But it is not stable. It is not reliable. And above all, it is not loyal. Love bends with the wind. It changes with fortune. When you are successful, when you are generous, when you are strong, yes, they will love you. They will praise you, sing your name, build monuments in your honor. But let your fortune turn. Let your strength waver. Let your gifts dry up, and suddenly the love that once surrounded you turns to silence. Or worse, scorn. I have seen this with my own eyes. Princes adored in times of plenty, abandoned in days of scarcity. Generals once worshipped, now whispered about, mocked, forgotten. And why? Because they believed love would protect them. Because they believed affection was armor. But fear is armor made of iron. When a man fears you, he cannot ignore you. He may hate you, but he will obey. He may curse your name behind closed doors, but he will not dare defy you in the open. He will keep his ambition caged, his disloyalty hidden, because fear makes consequences real. Fear plants seeds of caution, and caution is what prevents betrayal. Think of this: love makes people bold. It gives them the illusion that you will forgive, that you will understand, that your heart is too soft to strike. They will test your boundaries, push your patience, and when they succeed, even once, they will push again. Because love without fear becomes entitlement. It breeds a dangerous confidence. But fear without love, that lasts. You do not need to be cruel, only consistent. You do not need to roar, only remind. Make it known, quietly, firmly, that you are capable of great damage, that your mercy has limits, that your hand, while steady, is not paralyzed. When people fear crossing you, they do not need to love you to serve you. They simply need to remember what you can do. And here is a bitter truth few are willing to say aloud. When you choose to be loved, you are choosing to be vulnerable. You are placing your security in the hands of emotion. You are asking people to choose you again and again, without guarantee, without leverage, without consequence. This is not noble. It is suicidal. I watched one duke, beloved by his people, generous to a fault, adored in every corner of his domain. He smiled at their laughter, wept at their sorrows, forgave their debts. They called him the good father. He believed that because they loved him, they would protect him. But when the invaders came, no one took up arms. No one rode to defend him. The people fled. His generals surrendered. His own steward opened the gates, not because they hated him, but because they feared the invader more. Love had no weight in the face of fear, and so he died, surrounded not by enemies, but by silence. Do you understand now? Love is beautiful, but it is not a foundation. You may use it as a decoration, as a fragrance, as a song to play when the winds are calm. But never mistake it for stone. Fear is stone. Fear is bedrock. When all else fails, fear keeps the walls standing. And yet, there will always be those who tell you to lead with love. They will call you heartless when you speak of fear. They will say, is it not better to be loved than feared? And to them, I say, yes, it is better to be both. But if you must choose fear, because fear does not depend on their feelings. Fear does not require their gratitude. It does not wane when your face grows old or your gifts grow scarce. It does not weaken in the shadows of your failure. Fear endures because fear is not a gift you give them. It is a reaction you instill. It is not their choice. It is your design. They will call you cold. They will say your heart has grown hard. They will whisper that something in you has died. Let them. Those who fear decisiveness mistake it for cruelty. Those who cannot stomach reality wrap themselves in delusion and call it morality. But you do not have that luxury. When you walk among wolves, the man who hesitates to strike is the first to bleed. The cold-blooded man does not hate. He does not rage. He does not act from spite or anger or vengeance. That is what makes him dangerous. Because while others are clouded by emotion, he sees things for what they are. Not what he wishes they were, not what he hopes they become, but what they are. This is not cruelty. This is clarity. Do not let the poets confuse you. They sing about hearts and souls and honor as if these things ever held back a sword. They preach compassion to those who have none. They write of forgiveness while kneeling before men who laugh behind closed doors. It is not cruel to see the world without illusion. It is survival. The cold-blooded man does not trust sentiment. He does not lead with kindness. He may offer kindness, but always with purpose. He may show mercy, but never without calculation. He cuts where others plead. He breaks where others beg. And because of this, he wins. Not because he is evil, but because he refuses to lie to himself. Understand this? Emotions make poor commanders. They whisper in your ear at the wrong moment. They flood your mind when you most need stillness. They cause you to spare the one who will destroy you tomorrow. They blur the line between friend and threat, between loyalty and leverage. And once blurred, that line is rarely seen again until it is too late. Clarity, by contrast, is cold. But it is clean. It tells you when to act, when to sever, when to sacrifice the limb to save the body. The cold-blooded do not suffer hesitation. They do not wait for more evidence when they already know the answer. They do not cling to dying alliances or plead for love to return. They let go. They adapt, they endure. I once sat in council with a ruler who ruled with warmth. He forgave frequently. He offered second chances. He believed that with enough compassion, even his enemies could be reformed. I told him, "Your nobility will cost you more than your enemies ever will." He smiled. He believed I was bitter. 3 winters later, his cousin, a man he pardoned twice, led an uprising in the north. His former allies joined it. His court fractured. And when his banners finally fell, it was not his enemies who destroyed him, but the very people he once spared. He was not defeated by cruelty. He was defeated by sentiment. This is what you must understand. The world is not shaped by how you feel. It is shaped by what you do. And the man who waits for perfect feelings to make decisions will never make decisions at all. He will become paralyzed by hope, by love, by fear of consequence. But the cold-blooded man, he sees the knife behind the smile. He senses weakness behind loyalty. He knows that behind every warm word there may be an angle. And so he acts, before it is too late. Do not confuse this with apathy. The cold-blooded are not numb, they are alert, focused, armed like a blade. They feel. But they are not ruled by feeling. Their actions are not reactions. They are designs. Measured. Clean. When others weep over betrayal, they are already preparing the next move. Because they saw it coming. You may be tempted to believe that your humanity must be visible at all times, that your heart must be shown, that you must suffer openly to prove you care. But I ask you, when did suffering ever stop a dagger? When did sentiment ever disarm an ambitious rival? When did emotion ever spare a ruler from being overthrown by those who smiled in his presence and plotted in his shadow? Cold-bloodedness is not about abandoning your soul. It is about guarding it. It is about protecting what must endure, even if it means being hated in the short term. Because hatred fades, results remain. The masses remember peace. They remember order. They remember prosperity. They rarely remember how it was achieved. They do not recall the names of every man you had to silence, every friend you had to exile, every brother you had to ignore. They do not remember how cold you became to keep the fire alive. They only remember that the fire never went out. That is the burden of those who rule, the burden of those who lead. To carry in silence the weight of necessary decisions, while others judge you by the softness of their own hearts. But softness is not what builds empires. Softness does not protect the crown. It does not secure peace. It does not survive the storm. Clarity does. And clarity, my friend, often feels cold to those who still believe the world owes them warmth. Now you see, the world is not held together by love. It is not stabilized by mercy. It does not run on noble intentions. It runs on interest, on fear, on consequence. To survive, you must become what others cannot, cold not from cruelty, but from comprehension. Clear-eyed, steady-handed, loyal not to feelings, but to outcomes, even with those you cherish most, because love will fade, mercy will be mocked, loyalty will shift, and those who cannot act without hesitation, those who cannot cut when cutting is necessary, will be outmaneuvered, overthrown, erased. You were not born to be devoured. You were born to lead. But leadership demands a terrible price. It asks you to silence your heart when your heart wants to speak. It asks you to punish, even when you still care. It asks you to walk alone while others cling to illusions. So let them call you cold. Let them say your blood runs like winter wind. Let them whisper your name with caution in their voices. Because you will still be standing when they fall. And in the end, that is all that matters.